My wife was cheating with a manipulative gym trainer, lied about work trips, used our money on him. So I gathered proof, took sole custody of our son, and destroyed the man who helped her betray us. Franklin Brooks trusted his wife completely, which is why the first crack in his world felt like a misstep, not a collapse. He stood at the stove in their Cedar Park kitchen, flipping pancakes, the sizzle of batter a quiet rhythm against the morning's hum. Sunlight cut through the window, glinting off a cereal bowl where his son, Eli, age 9, sat plotting galactic battles. "Dad, the space pirates dodged the laser, right?" Boom, they're gone. Eli's hand slashed the air, his dark-eyed, Franklin's eyes sparkling with a story only he could see. Franklin slid a pancake onto Eli's plate, grinning. "Captain's gotta outsmart that laser, kid. Syrup?" "Extra." Eli's legs swung, his voice bright. Across the table, Samantha clutched her coffee mug, her thumb scrolling her phone with mechanical focus. Her blonde ponytail was sleek, her blazer pressed, ready for another day of clients and contracts. She hadn't looked up in 10 minutes. Franklin waited for her to catch Eli's tail, to toss in a teasing remark about syrup or pirates. Nothing. "Sam Pancake." He held up the spatula. Her eyes flicked up, green and guarded. "No thanks, early meeting." Her voice was sharp, like she was already halfway out the door. Franklin nodded, swallowing a faint sting. She'd been like this for weeks, distant, her attention a flickering signal. Work, he told himself. Sam's marketing gigs were relentless. Deadlines didn't bend. "Mom, you coming to my science fair?" Eli asked, pancake crumbs on his chin. "Volcano, huge eruption." Sam's smile was thin, practiced. "I'll try, buddy. Work's nuts." Eli's shoulders dipped, but he rallied, poking his fork at his plate. Franklin saw it, the flicker of hurt, and his chest tightened. He reached over, ruffling Eli's hair. "We'll make that volcano epic, Captain. Green lava, maybe?" Eli's grin snapped back, and Franklin held it like a lifeline. This was his anchor, Eli's laugh, their cluttered suburban home, the life he and Sam had built. He trusted it. Trusted her. As he scraped plates into the sink, his mind slipped back to 2009, UT Austin, a sociology lecture hall smelling of chalk and coffee. Sam was a blonde hurricane then, curls wild, laughing too loud at a professor's bad joke. Franklin, an engineering major with a pencil behind his ear, had been sketching a bridge when she leaned over his desk. Planning to save the world with that, she'd teased? He'd blushed, fumbled, and somehow scored a coffee date. That night, at a dive bar off Guadalupe, they'd traded futures over warm beers. She wanted her own agency, brands bending to her vision. He dreamed of bridges that outlasted time. They were 20, fearless, certain the world would kneel. 2 years later, under a hill country sky, he'd proposed with a ring he couldn't afford. She'd said yes before he finished asking. Now, watching Sam type furiously on her phone, Franklin felt that memory fray. She stood, slipping her phone into her purse. "Gotta go. Eli, be good for Dad." Eli nodded, nose in a comic book. Sam kissed his forehead, then brushed past Franklin with a flat later. No glance, no warmth. The front door clicked shut. Franklin stared at it, a shadow creeping into his thoughts. He couldn't pin it down, nothing solid, just an itch. Sam's business trips had spiked lately, vague clients in vague cities. Last week he'd asked about her day. She'd laughed, dodged, moved on. Small things. Work stress. That was it. "Another trip this week?" he called as she grabbed her keys, keeping his tone easy. "Dallas, client pitch, back Friday." Her answer was clipped, her eyes on her phone. "Third one this month," he said, wiping his hands on a towel. "They keeping you on a leash?" "The pay the bills." She didn't look up. He let it go. Sam was a machine when it came to work. Always had been. They were fine. 12 years of marriage. A kid. A mortgage. They'd weathered worse. Eli's surgery at 6. Franklin's job loss in 18. They fixed things. Always. "Ready for school, Captain?" He turned to Eli, who was humming about asteroids. "Aye, aye," Eli saluted, scrambling for his backpack. Franklin locked the house, Eli chattering about black holes as they headed to the car. The Texas sun climbed, warm and steady, and Franklin pushed the unease down deep. Sam was his constant, his partner. Whatever felt off was just noise, static in a signal that had never failed. He didn't see the storm brewing, didn't hear the first rumble. Not yet. Franklin Brooks adjusted his tie in the restaurant's dim restroom mirror, telling himself the night would fix things. 12 years married deserved a proper celebration, and he'd pulled out all the stops. A corner table at Levine, Cedar Park's best French spot, with candlelight and Sam's favorite Pinot Noir. He'd even ironed his shirt, a chore Eli had mocked him for that morning. But as he returned to the table seeing Sam, she didn't notice him. Her thumb flicked across the screen, lips tight, like she was wrestling something only she could see. Her navy dress, the same one from their 10th anniversary, hugged her frame. He'd hoped it was a nod to their past. Now, watching her frown at her phone, he wasn't sure. Everything okay? He slid into his chair, forcing a smile. Sam's head snapped up, green eyes blinking as if startled. Yeah, just work. She locked her phone, setting it face down by her fork. This place is nice, Franklin. You didn't have to go all out. 12 years is worth it. He reached for her hand, but she pulled back to sip her wine, the move so smooth he almost missed it. Eli's with your mom. Thought we could use a real date. Her smile was thin, not warm. That's sweet. The waiter swooped in, listing specials: duck confit, lavender creme brulee. Franklin ordered steak. Sam picked a salad, saying she wasn't hungry. As candles flickered, he tried to nudge the night towards something softer, something like before. Remember our first anniversary, he said, leaning in. That taco truck by the lake, food poisoning, and we still laughed for weeks. Sam's laugh was faint, more reflex than joy. Yeah, young and dumb. Her eyes flicked to her phone as it buzzed, a glance she hid by grabbing her glass. He ignored the jab in his chest. Not dumb, just us. He wanted to say more. About Eli, their life, the years that stitched them together. But her phone buzzed again. She flipped it over, silencing it without checking. Work's got you on a leash, he said, keeping it light. Her jaw tightened. Just a moment. Last-minute client crisis, campaign launch meltdown. I might need to call them later. On our anniversary? The word slipped out sharper than he meant. It's not like I planned it, Franklin. Her voice was clipped. Things happen. He nodded, swallowing the reply. Sam worked hard, always had. Late nights, sudden trips, clients who acted like she was on call 24/7. It paid for the house, Eli's science kits, their life. He couldn't grudge her that, could he? Their food arrived, and they ate in sear silence, silverware clinking louder than words. Franklin tried again. Eli's Mars rover obsession, a funny work pitch about solar panels. Sam nodded, murmured responses, but her eyes wandered, unfocused. Halfway through, her phone lit up again. This time, she didn't touch it, but her fingers twitched like it was pulling her. Want me to take that call for you? He joked, half serious. She didn't laugh. It's fine, let's just enjoy this. But she wasn't enjoying it. Her fork pushed lettuce around, barely touching it. Franklin cut into his steak, the meat too rich, the wine too sharp. He kept glancing at her, waiting for the Sam he knew, the one who'd dance in the kitchen, who'd teased him about his terrible French accent when they ordered dessert here years ago. That Sam was gone tonight, replaced by this stranger, who checked her phone like it held state secrets. He pushed through, talking about Eli's science fair, the volcano plan. Kid's gonna blow the gym roof off, he said, hoping for a spark. That's great, she said, eyes on her untouched salad. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it, but her shoulders stiffened. Dinner ended with coffee and a shared creme brulee Franklin insisted on, though Sam only took one bite. He paid the bill, a quiet ache settling in. This wasn't how he'd pictured their night. No lingering glances, no easy laughter, just a table between them, wider than it looked. Outside, the October air was crisp, the parking lot half empty. Sam shrugged into her coat, a sleek black one she'd bought last month. As she fumbled with her purse, something slipped out. A folded slip of paper, fluttering to the pavement. Franklin bent to grab it before she could. What's this? He unfolded it without thinking, expecting a grocery list or parking stub. It was a receipt from Le Chateau, a high-end restaurant in downtown Austin, dated 3 weeks ago. 2 entrees, a bottle of champagne, nearly $200, 0 cents. His stomach twisted. They'd never been to Le Chateau. He'd suggested it once, years back, but Sam had laughed it off. Too stuffy, too pricey. He stared at the date. A Wednesday, when she'd said she was working late. Franklin? Sam's voice was sharp. She reached for the receipt, but he held it a second longer, scanning the details. Where's this from? He asked, keeping his tone even. Her eyes flicked to the paper, then back to him. Oh, client dinner, work thing. Forgot I kept it. She plucked it from his fingers, tucking it into her purse with a quick smile. Come on, it's cold. He nodded, following her to the car, but the receipt burned in his mind. A client dinner didn't need champagne. Didn't need a place like that. He pushed the thought down, hard. Sam was dedicated. Her job demanded whining and dining. That was all. In the car, she turned on the radio, filling the silence. He drove, streetlights blurring past, and told himself he was overthinking. Sam was his wife, his partner. She'd always worked late, always had her head in her work. The receipt was nothing. A fluke. But as they pulled into their driveway, her phone buzzed again. She didn't check it, just gripped her purse tighter. Franklin stared at the dashboard, the engine ticking as it cooled. He wanted to ask who kept texting, why she was so far away tonight. Instead, he said, "Happy anniversary." "Yeah," she said, already halfway out the door. "You too." He watched her disappear into the house, the receipt's shadow lingering like a bruise he couldn't touch. Franklin Brooks wasn't a suspicious man, but the receipt from Le Chateau had taken root, a splinter he couldn't ignore. 3 weeks after their anniversary, he stood in the kitchen, rinsing Eli's breakfast plate, while the morning unfolded like always. Eli chattered about his volcano project. Sam rushed out with a vague client meeting, her phone glued to her hand. Franklin smiled, nodded, drove Eli to school. But the routine felt hollow, like a song played off-key. He'd tried to dismiss the receipt. A client dinner, Sam had said. Logical. Her marketing job demanded schmoozing. Fancy restaurants weren't new. But Le Chateau wasn't her usual spot, and champagne for a work meeting felt off. He hadn't asked her about it again. Didn't want to seem paranoid. Instead, he started noticing things. Small things, at first. Sam's gym obsession, for one. She'd always been fit, but now she went 5 nights a week, staying late for spin classes or yoga. She'd come home flushed, hair damp, but her gym bag was oddly light when he'd grabbed it by mistake last week. Then there were the absences. Weekend errands stretching hours longer than they should, her phone buzzing at odd times, texts she'd answer in another room. Her phone had a new password too. When he'd asked why, casually, she'd shrugged. Privacy, Franklin, work stuff sensitive. He'd nodded, let it go. But the splinter dug deeper. That morning, after dropping Eli at school, Franklin worked from home, his engineering blueprints spread across the dining table. A bridge design for a new highway, clean lines, precise calculations. He liked the order of it, the way numbers didn't lie. But his focus kept slipping. Sam had left for Dallas, again another business trip, back tomorrow. She'd packed light, kissed Eli goodbye, and barely looked at Franklin. He'd asked where she was staying. "Hilton, I think," she'd said, already halfway to her car. He stared at his laptop, the bridge blurring. On impulse, he opened their bank app. Just to check, he told himself. Nothing specific. The joint account looked normal. Groceries, Eli's school fees, the usual. But a cash withdrawal caught his eye. $200. 0 cents. 2 weeks ago, no memo. Sam never used cash. He scrolled further. Another withdrawal, $150, 0 cents, a month back. Odd, but not damning. He closed the app, heart ticking faster. The house was too quiet. He needed to move, to shake the thoughts crowding his head. In the garage, he rummaged for a screwdriver to fix Eli's wobbly desk, parked Sam's car, parked, despite her trip. She'd said she was taking an Uber to the airport. Made sense, didn't it? Back inside, he paused at the living room window, staring at the driveway. The splinter twisted. He wasn't this guy, the one who doubted, who snooped. 12 years with Sam had been built on trust. She was his partner, Eli's mom. But the phone, the trips, the cash, they didn't add up. That afternoon, he made a call. Not to Sam, but to a home security company. "Just want something basic," he told the rep. "Cameras for the front door, maybe inside. For safety," he said. "For Eli." The guy didn't question it, promised a tech by evening. Franklin hung up, palms sweaty. It wasn't spying, it was... The tech installed 2 cameras, one outside, one in the living room, discreet, motion-activated. Franklin tested the app on his phone, watching grainy footage of himself waving at the lens. He felt ridiculous, then justified. If nothing was wrong, he'd see nothing. Simple. 2 days later, Sam was still in Dallas. Franklin sat at his desk, Eli asleep upstairs, and opened the security app. He'd checked it daily, finding nothing but delivery guys and neighbors. Tonight, though, a new clip loaded. Tuned its mom that afternoon, while he was at the office. The footage showed the front door opening. Sam walked in, her gym bag slung over her shoulder. She wasn't alone. A man followed, tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair cropped short, wearing a black hoodie and jeans. He moved with easy confidence like he'd been here before. Sam laughed at something he said, her head tilting the way it used to when Franklin made her smile. They disappeared into the house. The clip ended. Franklin's breath caught. He rewound, paused on the man's face. Unfamiliar, sharp-featured, maybe mid-30s. Not a client. Clients didn't walk that close, didn't make her laugh like that. He checked the indoor camera. Another clip. Sam and the man in the living room, his hand brushing her arm as they sat on the couch. She didn't pull away. They talked, heads bent close, for 20 minutes. Then they left, together. His pulse hammered. He replayed the clip, searching for clues. The man's hoodie had a logo, some gym brand maybe. No name, no context. Franklin's mind raced. A friend? A coworker? But the laugh, the touch. They weren't professional. They weren't innocent. He shut the app, hands shaking. He wanted to call her, demand answers. Who was he? Why was he here? But confrontation felt like a cliff he wasn't ready to jump off. If he was wrong, if this was nothing, he'd look like a fool. Worse, he'd break something between them. If he was right, he couldn't finish the thought. Instead, he sat in the dark, staring at the wall. The man's face burned behind his eyes. Franklin thought of Eli, asleep upstairs, trusting the world to stay whole. He thought of Sam's evasions, her locked phone, her trips. The splinter wasn't a splinter anymore. It was a crack splitting wider. He didn't sleep that night. By morning, he'd made a decision. No accusations, no fights. Not yet. He'd watch, wait, gather proof. If Sam was hiding something, he'd find it. If she wasn't, he'd bury this and never speak of it. Either way, he needed to know. As dawn broke, he poured Eli's cereal, smiled through their routine, and drove him to school. The cameras stayed silent, recording nothing. But Franklin felt them watching, like eyes he'd opened and couldn't close. Franklin Brooks had always solved problems with logic, angles, loads, blueprints that held firm under pressure. Now, his life was a structure buckling, and he needed answers, not guesses. The security footage of Sam and the stranger Damien, he'd later learned, looped in his mind like a glitch. 2 weeks after that clip, Franklin sat in his home office, Eli at school, Sam at the gym, and made a call he never thought he'd make. "Jim Reese Investigations," a gruff voice answered. "What's your situation?" Franklin hesitated, the phone heavy in his hand. "I need someone followed, discreetly." "Got a name?" Jim didn't waste words. "A wife. Samantha Brooks." Saying it aloud felt like betrayal, but the crack in his trust was too wide to ignore. "And a man she's been seeing. I don't know his name yet." Jim didn't flinch. "Send what you've got, photos, routines. I'll handle the rest. $2,000 up front, weekly reports. Cash or transfer?" "Transfer." Franklin's voice was steady, but his pulse wasn't. He emailed the footage, Sam's schedule, and a description of the man in the hoodie. Then he waited, the house too quiet, his blueprints untouched on the desk. The first report came 6 days later. Franklin read it alone, Eli asleep, the clock ticking past midnight. Jim was thorough. Sam had met the man, Damien Carter, 3 times that week. Once at a coffee shop, once at a hotel bar in Austin, once at a park near Zilker. Photos showed them close, her hand on his arm, his smile too familiar. Damien was 34, no steady job, but lived in a sleek downtown condo. Gym trainer, part-time, with a flashy Instagram full of workout selfies and vague captions about living large. Jim's notes flagged him as a hustler, maybe worse. Franklin's stomach churned. He stared at a photo, Sam laughing, her head tilted like it used to when they'd talk late into the night. Now it was for Damien. He clicked to the next file. Receipts from the hotel bar, a $90.00 tab for cocktails they didn't finish. Another from a boutique, $200.00 for lingerie Franklin had never seen. His hand shook as he closed the laptop. He didn't confront her. Couldn't. Not yet. The engineer in him needed more data, proof, a foundation that couldn't crack in a fight. Sam was still his wife, Eli's mom. If he was wrong, he'd ruin everything. If he was right, he pushed the thought away. Jim's second report a week later was worse. Damien had a pattern. Social media posts linked him to other women, older, married, wealthy. A comment on a deleted post called him a gold digger with charm. Jim dug deeper. Damien had no savings, no real income, yet drove a leased BMW and wore watches that cost more than Franklin's monthly mortgage. Hotel footage showed him with Sam, checking in under her name, her card. One clip caught them in the lobby, his hand low on her back, her smile unguarded. Franklin paused the video, staring at her face. He barely recognized it. The third report sealed it. Jim found Damien's history, 2 women, both married, both bled dry before he moved on. No charges filed. Damien was slick, leaving just enough deniability. One woman's divorce filing mentioned emotional manipulation, the other's husband had paid him to disappear. Jim's note was blunt. "Guy's a pro. Your wife's not his first mark." Franklin didn't sleep that night. He sat in the dark, the reports spread across his desk like a crime scene. Each photo, each receipt was a nail in the coffin of his trust. Sam's business trips aligned with hotel stays. Her gym classes matched Damien's schedule. The cash withdrawals he'd noticed, hundreds here, hundreds there, fit Damien's cash-heavy lifestyle. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It was fact. He started an evidence journal, a black notebook he kept locked in his desk. Dates, times, photos, receipts, every detail cataloged with an engineer's precision. October 22, Sam leaves at 6 p.m. Jim, Damien's car parked 2 blocks away, caught on a neighbor's Ring camera. October 25, $150.00 cash withdrawn, same day as a bar tab with Damien's name. He cross-referenced Jim's reports, time-stamped footage, even notarized key pages at a UPS store, signing them with a clerk who didn't ask why. If this came to a fight, he'd be ready. Sam didn't notice the change in him. He kept up the routine, breakfast with Eli, work, school pickups. When she was home, he smiled, asked about her day, ignored the lies. "Client went well?" he'd say, watching her nod, her eyes avoiding his. She'd kiss Eli goodnight, then disappear to her phone, the new password locking him out. He wondered what she typed, what Damien sent her. He didn't ask. The journal grew thicker. Eli was his anchor. One night, as Franklin tucked him in, Eli asked, "Is Mom okay?" "She's always gone." Franklin froze, then forced a grin. "She's just busy, Captain, work stuff. We're good." Eli nodded, clutching his Mars rover toy, and Franklin's throat tightened. He'd protect his son, no matter what. By week 4, Jim's final report landed. A text log pulled from a burner phone Damien used. Messages to Sam, flirty, manipulative. "You deserve better than him," one read. "We're unstoppable." Franklin read them until his eyes burned, then added them to the journal. He paid Jim's final invoice, thanked him, and locked the notebook away. He wasn't ready to act, not yet. The evidence was ironclad, but confronting Sam meant shattering their life, Eli's life. He needed a plan, not a fight. So he watched, waited, and wrote. The journal his silent witness as the man he'd been slipped further away. Franklin Brooks had built bridges to withstand storms, but now he was designing a different kind of structure, one to protect his son and dismantle the lie his marriage had become. The black notebook, heavy with evidence of Sam's affair, sat locked in his desk, its pages a blueprint for a fight he hadn't started but would finish. 4 weeks after the PI's final report, Franklin drove downtown, past Austin's glass towers, to a law office he'd found through a colleague's whisper. Rose Jennings, a divorce attorney who played the game like a grandmaster. The office was sleek but unpretentious. Mahogany desk, city view, no flashy plaques. Rose, mid-50s, had sharp gray eyes and a handshake that meant business. Her reputation was quiet but ironclad. She didn't just win cases, she reshaped battlefields. Franklin sat across from her, palms damp, the weight of his decision pressing down. "You're here about a divorce," Rose said, not a question. Her voice was calm, like she'd seen every story before. Franklin nodded. "And custody. My son, Eli. He's 9. I want him safe." "Safe from what?" She leaned forward, pen poised over a legal pad. He exhaled, the words foreign. "My wife's cheating, has been for months. I've got proof, photos, receipts, texts. A guy named Damien Carter. I don't want her near Eli if she's with him." Rose didn't blink. "Proof's good, but custody's tricky. Courts favor mothers unless you've got a slam dunk. Tell me everything." He did. The business trips, the locked phone, the cash withdrawals, the security footage of Damien in their home. The PI's reports detailing his predatory past. Married women. Drained accounts, no remorse. The journal, notarized and dated, with every betrayal cataloged like load-bearing beams. He slid a USB drive across the desk, a digital copy of it all. "She doesn't know I know," he said. Rose's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Smart. Most men blow up, tip their hand. You're playing chess, not checkers." She plugged in the drive, skimming files on her laptop. "This is solid. Hotel receipts, texts, his history, courts eat this up. But you're not just after divorce, are you?" "I want Eli," Franklin said, voice low. "She's not stable, not with him." Rose nodded, scribbling notes. "Texas courts prioritize the kid's best interest. Infidelity's a lever, but we need to show she's unfit, neglect, bad influence, something concrete. What's she like with your son?" Franklin paused, the question a knife, distant, misses his event. Science fair, soccer games. Always work. Ely asks where she is, and I cover for her. His jaw tightened. I don't know how much she's around Damien when Eli's home. That's what scares me. Documented, Rose said. Every missed pickup, every late night. You've got a head start with this, she tapped the USB. We'll build a timeline, her absences, his involvement. Custody's the goal, but we'll hit her finances too. Adultery can sway asset splits if we play it right. Franklin's stomach twisted. Asset splits felt petty compared to Eli, but he nodded. What's next? E-file quietly. Divorce petition, custody motion, no fanfare, she won't see it coming. We list insupportability as grounds for now. Keeps it vague, saves the affair for court. You've got enough to bury her, but timing's everything. Spring the evidence when she's overconfident, not before. How long, he asked. 2 months, maybe 3. Court's backed up, but I'll push for a fast track. You keep acting normal. No fights, no hints. Can you do that? He thought of Sam's evasions, her quick smiles that didn't reach her eyes. Yeah. I've been doing it. Good. Rose leaned back, eyes narrowing. One more thing, Damien. He's a liability. If he's fleecing her, she might tank your joint accounts. I'll get a forensic accountant to trace her spending. Protect your assets now. Move half your savings to a solo account, nothing she can touch. Legal, but don't flaunt it. Franklin nodded, the advice cold but practical. And Eli? What do I tell him? Nothing yet. Kid smell tension, keep his world steady. If she's distracted, you're his rock. That'll matter in court. The meeting ended with a handshake and a retainer fee Franklin wired that night. Rose promised a draft petition by week's end. Driving home, Austin's skyline fading in the rear view, he felt a strange calm. Not relief, grief, maybe, for the life he'd thought was his. But the plan gave him purpose, like a blueprint snapping into focus. At home, he played the part. Sam was back from her latest trip, cooking pasta while Eli built a Lego rover at the table. Franklin joined in, joking about Martian volcanoes, but his eyes tracked Sam. She hummed, phone buzzing on the counter. When she stepped out to take a call, he noted the time in his journal. 7:42 p.m., 15 minutes, back with damp hair like she'd splashed her face. He didn't ask who it was. Rose's petition arrived 3 days later, emailed with a warning, signed but don't show anyone. Franklin read it alone, clinical language, irreconcilable differences, full custody request for Eli. He signed digitally, the click louder than it should have been. Rose filed it quietly, no notice to Sam yet. Texas law allowed a 60-day wait before serving papers, and Rose wanted every day to tighten the new. Franklin added to his journal nightly, Sam's missed parent-teacher conference, October 28. Eli's bedtime story skipped, November 1. Sam at yoga. He logged Eli's life too. Doctor visits he handled. Homework he checked. Proof he was the constant. The accountant Rose hired flagged $3,000, 0 cents in unexplained withdrawals from Sam's personal account, likely cash to Damien. Franklin moved half their savings to a new account, as instructed, his name only. By mid-December, the court date was set, January 15. Rose called it a good draw. Judge Harrow, tough but fair, hated liars. Keep the evidence locked tight, she said. She'll think she's winning until you drop the hammer. Franklin agreed, the notebook his silent ally. He kissed Eli goodnight, smiled at Sam's lies, and waited. The chessboard was set, and he was ready to move. Franklin Brooks had never been late for anything, meetings, Eli's school pickups, not even a dentist appointment. But on January 15, as he drove to the Travis County Courthouse, he circled the block 3 times, watching the clock tick past 9. Oh, clock, eh? Rose Jennings had planned it this way. Arrive, 45 minutes late. Let Sam and her lover think they'd won before he played his hand. His black notebook, stuffed with evidence, sat in his briefcase on the passenger seat, a bomb waiting to detonate. The courthouse loomed, gray and unyielding under a cloudy Texas sky. Franklin parked, adjusted his tie, and walked in, his steps deliberate. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and stale coffee. He took the elevator to the 3rd floor, courtroom 3B, his pulse steady but loud in his ears. Rose had prepped him for weeks. Stay calm, let her lead, trust the evidence. He did. 12 years of marriage, months of betrayal, it all came down to this. He pushed open the courtroom door at 9:45 a.m., the session already underway. Heads turned. Judge Harrow, stern behind her bench, Rose, unruffled at the plaintiff's table, and Sam, seated with her lawyer, a slick man named Greg Vance. Next to her was Damien Carter, the man from the security footage, his dark hair slicked back, a smug grin curling his lips. Sam's eyes met Franklin's, her expression a mix of pity and triumph, like she'd already buried him. Damien whispered something to her and she stifled a laugh, her blonde hair catching the light. "Mr. Brooks," Judge Harrow said, her voice sharp but measured, "you've kept us waiting. Care to explain?" Rose stood smoothly. "Apologies, Your Honor. A family emergency delayed my client. He's here now, ready to proceed." Harrow's eyes narrowed, but she nodded. "Noted. Let's move on." Franklin took his seat beside Rose, briefcase at his feet. The courtroom was half empty, clerks, a bailiff, no spectators. Good. This wasn't a show. It was surgery. He glanced at Sam again. Her navy suit was pressed, her posture relaxed, but her fingers tapped her knee, a tell he'd known since college. She was nervous, despite the Vance, Sam's lawyer, stood, adjusting his cufflinks. "Your Honor, we'd like to continue with our case for joint custody and equitable asset division. Ms. Brooks has been the primary caregiver for their son Eli, and Mr. Brooks' disengagement has strained their family." Franklin's jaw tightened, but Rose's hand grazed his arm. "Stay still," Vance paced, his voice smooth as oil. "Mr. Brooks works long hours, often leaving Ms. Brooks to manage parenting alone. He's emotionally distant, prone to withdrawing when conflicts arise. Eli deserves stability, which Ms. Brooks provides. We've submitted affidavits from friends confirming her dedication." Lies, Franklin thought. Sam had missed Eli's last 3 games, his parent-teacher conference, even his Halloween play. He'd covered for her, always had, but he kept silent, eyes on the judge, who scribbled notes. Vance gestured to Franklin, his tone softening to pity. "We're not saying Mr. Brooks is a bad father, just absent. His late arrival today speaks volumes. Ms. Brooks seeks joint custody to ensure Eli's needs come first, not Mr. Brooks' grudges." Sam nodded, her lips pursed in a practiced frown. Damien leaned closer, his hand brushing hers under the table. Franklin caught it, his stomach twisting. Rose scribbled something, her face unreadable. "Your Honor," Vance continued, "Ms. Brooks also requests a fair division of assets. She's contributed significantly to their joint success, her career, her sacrifices. Mr. Brooks' petition for full custody in punitive terms is frankly vindictive. There's no evidence to support his claims of unfitness." Harrow glanced at Franklin, her expression neutral. "Mr. Brooks, your response?" Rose stood, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. "Your Honor, my client's not here to sling mud. He's here for his son. We'll show Ms. Brooks has been anything but stable, and her choices threaten Eli's well-being. But first, may I ask why Mr. Carter is present? He's not a party to this case." Sam's head snapped up. Damien froze, his grin faltering. Vance hesitated, then said, "Mr. Carter's a friend, offering moral support." "Interesting," Rose said, her smile sharp. "We'll get to that. For now, let's address the custody claims." She sat, nudging Franklin. His turn. He stood, briefcase in hand, and walked to the evidence table, every eye on him. Sam's smirk lingered. Damien's arm now draped over her chair. They thought he'd fold, that he had nothing. He'd let them think it, until now. "Your Honor," Franklin began, voice steady. "I've raised Eli. Doctor visits, homework, bedtime stories. That's me. Ms. Brooks says she's there, but she's not. I've got logs, dates, proof she's missed his life for months." He opened the briefcase, pulling out the black notebook, its pages tabbed and worn. October 5, Eli's soccer game, no show. October 28, parent-teacher conference, I went alone. November 12, Eli's science fair, I built the volcano. She was... Sam's smirk faded. Vance shifted, whispering to her. Franklin kept going, placing a USB drive on the table. "This has more, photos, receipts, timelines. She's been absent, Your Honor, because she's been with him." He nodded toward Damien. The courtroom stilled. Harali leaned forward. "Be specific, Mr. Brooks." Rose took over, her voice cutting clean. "Ms. Brooks has engaged in an ongoing affair with Mr. Carter, documented for 6 months. We have hotel receipts, her card, his company, security footage of him in their home, uninvited, while Mr. Brooks worked, text messages planning meetups, disparaging my client. Mr. Carter's history shows a pattern, targeting married women, draining their resources. He's not a friend." Vance shot up. "Objection, this is speculative, irrelevant." "Overruled," Harrow said, eyes on Rose. "I want to see it." Franklin handed the USB to the bailiff, who loaded it on a courtroom laptop. A projector hummed, casting images on a screen. Sam and Damien at a hotel bar, his hand on her thigh. A receipt for $200, 0 cents lingerie dated weeks before their anniversary. Security footage of Damien entering their house. Sam laughing. Then texts, blown up large. Damien's words. He's clueless. We've got this. Sam's face drained of color. Damien's arm dropped, his jaw tight. Vance scrambled, flipping through papers, but his calm was gone. The courtroom felt smaller, the air thick. Rose kept going, relentless. Mr. Carter's no stranger to this game. 2 prior women. Same story. Affairs, drained accounts, broken homes. No charges, but the pattern's clear. Ms. Brooks chose him over her son, over her marriage. Eli's at risk in her care, Your Honor. We have a PI report confirming it all. She placed Jim Reese's report on the table, 50 pages of damning detail. Franklin watched Sam, her hands now clenched, eyes darting to Damon, who wouldn't look at her. The smugness was gone, replaced by something raw. Fear, maybe, or shame. Harry skimmed the report, her face unreadable. This is substantial, Miss Jennings. Mr. Vance, your response? Vance stood, voice strained. We need time to review. These allegations are new, inflammatory. You've had months, Rose cut in. My client played fair. Ms. Brooks didn't. Harrow raised a hand. Enough. I'll review the evidence. Custody and assets are on hold until I do. Adjourned for 1 week. The gavel cracked. Sam sat frozen, staring at the screen, Damien's texts still glowing. Franklin packed his notebook, his hands steady but his chest tight. He'd dropped the hammer, just as Rose planned, and Sam's world had cracked open. He felt no joy, only the weight of what came next. Franklin Brooks sat in the Travis County Courthouse 1 week after dropping his evidence bomb, the air in courtroom 3B thick with tension. The black notebook, now a courtroom legend thanks to Rose Jennings' theatrics, rested in his briefcase, its job half done. Today wasn't about Sam's affair. That wound was open, bleeding across last week's headlines. Today was about Eli, and Franklin would fight with everything he had to keep his son safe. Judge Harrow entered, her robe snapping like a flag in the quiet. Her face was stone, but her eyes lingered on Franklin, then Sam, who sat rigid at the defendant's table. Damien was in Surrey. Rose had shorted his absence with a subpoena to his landlord, tying him up elsewhere. Sam's lawyer, Greg Vance, looked haggard, his cufflinks duller than last week. The evidence, photos, texts, Damien's predatory past had left them scrambling. Custody of Eli Brooks, Harrow began, voice clear. Mr. Brooks seeks sole custody, alleging Ms. Brooks' neglect and unfit environment. Ms. Brooks requests joint. Rose stood, her gray suit sharp as a blade. Your Honor, my client's been Eli's rock. Doctor visits, schoolwork, every scraped knee. Ms. Brooks has been absent, prioritizing her relationship with Mr. Carter over her son. We'll show she's not just distracted but reckless, exposing Eli to a man who's dangerous. Vance shot up. Objection, inflammatory. Mr. Carter's not on trial here. Sustained, Harrow said, but her gaze stayed on Rose. Stick to the child, Miss Jennings. Franklin's hands clenched under the table. Dangerous was no exaggeration. He'd seen the texts, read Jim Reese's report. Damien wasn't just a hustler, he was calculated, manipulative, and Sam had let him near their home, near Eli. Franklin kept his face blank, as Rose had coached, but his heart pounded. Rose nodded, unfazed. Mr. Brooks, tell the court about Eli's routine. Franklin stood, clearing his throat. He'd rehearsed this, but the weight of every word hit hard. Eli's my priority. I wake him at 6:30, make breakfast. Pancakes if he's lucky. A faint smile tugged, then faded. I drive him to school by 7:45. After work, I'm there for pickup, 3:30 sharp. Homework's next. Math's his favorite, but he fights spelling. Dinner's at 6:00, tacos on Tuesdays, his choice. Bedtime's 8:30 with a story. Right now it's the Martian Chronicles. He loves space. Harrow scribbled, her pen loud in the hush. Franklin pulled a binder from his briefcase, placing it on the evidence table. This is my log. Every day. September to now. September 10, Eli's ear infection. I took him to the pediatrician, got antibiotics. October 3, science project. We built a solar system, hung it in his room. November 15, he aced a math test. I framed the certificate. I've got receipts, photos, teacher emails. He flipped the binder open, pages tabbed by month. Ms. Brooks missed most of it. September 22, Eli's soccer tryouts. I coached him. She was working. October 28, parent-teacher night. I went alone. November 5, his play, he was an astronaut. She didn't show. I told him she was busy, didn't want him hurt. Sam's head bowed, her hands twisting in her lap. Franklin didn't look at her. Couldn't. This wasn't revenge. It was truth. Rose took the binder, handing it to the bailiff. Your Honor, these logs show Mr. Brooks as Eli's primary caregiver. Ms. Brooks' absences align with her time with Mr. Carter, documented last week, but it's worse than neglect. Mr. Carter's influence is toxic. Vance stood, voice tight. Objection. Speculation? Overruled, Harrow said. I want to hear this. Rose placed a new file on the table labeled Carter Communications. Leaked messages from Mr. Carter's burner phone, obtained legally via subpoena. One, dated October 12, to Ms. Brooks. Bring the kid next time. It'll hit him harder. Another, November 8, use Eli to keep him off our back. Carter saw Eli as leverage to hurt my client, and Ms. Brooks didn't stop him. The projector hummed, texts glowing on the screen. Franklin's breath caught, seeing them again. He'd read them first in Jim's final report, each word a knife. Sam had replied to one, Eli's not part of this. But she'd still met Damien the next day, still let him into their world. Rose's voice was ice. Miss Brooks knew Carter's intent. She chose him anyway, risking her son's emotional safety. Eli deserves better. Harrow's pen stopped. She leaned forward, eyes boring into Sam. Mr. Vance, your response? Vance stood, papers fluttering in his hands. Your Honor, these texts are out of context. Ms. Brooks loves her son. She'd never harm him. She's been under stress, yes, but she's attended school events when able. Her career demands flexibility, unlike Mr. Brooks' desk job. Joint custody ensures Eli gets both parents. Rose didn't wait. Flexibility. Ms. Brooks missed 14 documented events since September. Mr. Brooks rearranged his schedule, meetings, deadlines to be there. Her stress was Mr. Carter, not parenting. Franklin handed Rose a second binder. Eli's life in photos. Him grinning at the science fair, volcano erupting, green, kicking a soccer ball, Franklin cheering, asleep with a book, Franklin's shadow in the frame. I took these, he said. She wasn't there. Sam's shoulders shook, a sob breaking free. Vance whispered to her, urgent. But she didn't look up. Franklin's chest ached. He hadn't wanted this, hadn't wanted her broken. But Eli came first. Harrow flipped through the binders, her silence heavy. Anything else, Ms. Jennings? Last point, Rose said. Mr. Carter's history. 2 prior women, manipulated, families torn apart. Ms. Brooks's pattern matches, cash withdrawals, $4,500, 0 cents total, likely to him. Her judgment's compromised. Eli can't be near that. Vance tried again, voice fraying. Your Honor, Ms. Brooks is reforming her life. She's ended contact with Mr. Carter. Since last week, Rose cut in, when we exposed him. Too late. Harrow raised a hand. I've heard enough, she leaned back, eyes scanning the room. Mr. Brooks, your logs are meticulous. Ms. Brooks, your absence is glaring, and these essenges, she tapped the file. Troubling, at best. She paused, the clock ticking. Eli Brooks needs stability. Sole custody is awarded to Franklin Brooks. Ms. Brooks, you'll have monitored visitation 1 day a week pending a review in 6 months. No contact with Mr. Carter around the child. Enforceable by court order. Sam gasped, a choked sound. Vance's pen clattered to the table. Franklin exhaled, relief crashing through him. But it wasn't joy, just weightlifting, leaving bruises behind. Harrow continued. Assets and support deferred to next session, adjourned. Her gavel cracked. Sam didn't move, staring at the floor. Vance packed his briefcase, muttering. Rose touched Franklin's arm, her nod subtle but triumphant. You did it, she whispered. Franklin packed the binders, his hands steady but his mind reeling. Eli was his, safe finally, but the victory felt hollow, Sam's sob echoing in his ears. He'd protected his son, but at what cost? As he left the courtroom, the notebook in his briefcase felt lighter, its work done. Outside, Austin's sun broke through the clouds, but Franklin didn't feel it. He had Eli. That was enough for now. Franklin Brooks wasn't a vengeful man, but he understood consequences. With Eli's safe sole custody granted days ago, the black notebook's final pages turned toward Damien Carter, the man who'd slithered into his home and fractured his family. Franklin didn't want blood. He wanted accountability. Damien's life, built on charm and lies, was a house of cards, and Franklin held the win. The courthouse victory had left Sam shattered, her visitation rights tethered to a court monitor. But Damien, absent from the hearing, still strutted through Austin's gyms and bars, his Instagram flaunting protein shakes and Rolex flashes, as if Franklin's evidence hadn't touched him. That ended now. Franklin sat in his home office, Eli at a sleepover, and opened the PI's final report, its appendix a roadmap to Damien's ruin. Jim Reese had flagged irregularities. Damien's income didn't match his lifestyle. No real job, yet a $2,500 0 cents a month condo, a leased BMW, and cash-heavy nights at upscale lounges. Franklin cross-referenced the data with his journal. Sam's cash withdrawals, $4.50 total, synced with Damien's bar tabs and hotel stays. But Jim dug deeper, uncovering unpaid taxes, unreported income from consulting gigs, and shady side deal. Damien was a fraud, skating on borrowed time. Franklin made 2 calls. First to the IRS, anonymous but precise. He emailed a file, bank records, receipts, screenshots of Damien's boast about off-the-book cash, all from Jim's report. The agent thanked him, voice clipped, promising a review. Second to Damien's former employer, a fitness chain called Iron Pulse. Franklin posed as a concerned client, sharing a tip. Damien's side hustles, skimming gym fees, using their brand for unreported income. The manager listened, then hung up, but Franklin knew the seed was planted. The fallout came fast. Within a week, Iron Pulse dropped Damien's sponsorship, their logo vanishing from his social media. A gym buddy posted a vague jab. Some dudes burn bridges, and others unfollowed, their likes drying up. Franklin watched from a burner account, no satisfaction, just confirmation. Damien's world was shrinking. Next was the condo. Jim's report noted Damien's lease, paid through a shell account tied to one of his prior marks, a woman who'd settled out of court. Franklin tipped off the landlord, a property firm with no patience for fraud. Days later, a Reddit thread in Austin's housing forum, but another card fell. Damien's friends, gym rats, party types, faded as the scandal spread. A local blog, ATX Insider, picked up the story. No names but clear enough. Fitness influencer caught in tax dodge, loses deals. Comments piled up, calling him a leech, a con. Franklin hadn't leaked it, but he didn't need to. Truth had its own momentum. Damien's Instagram went private. His last post, a cryptic "haters gonna hate," captioned over a sunset. No one cared. Franklin's final move was quiet. He mailed a folder to the Better Business Bureau. Copies of Damien's fake consulting invoices, pulled from Jim's deep dive. It wasn't personal, he told himself. Damien had targeted Sam, used Eli as a pawn, wrecked lives before theirs. If Franklin didn't act, he'd do it again. 3 weeks after the custody ruling, Damien's fall was complete. No condo, no car, no sponsors. A gym regular tweeted about him crashing on a couch, begging for protein powder. Franklin read it at breakfast, Eli humming over cereal, oblivious. He closed his phone, the weight of his actions settling in, not guilt, but gravity. He'd dismantled a life, methodically, like dismantling a flawed bridge. Then came the confrontation, not Franklin's doing. Late one evening, as he mowed the lawn, a car screeched to a stop. Sam's sedan, her face pale in the driver's seat. Damien was with her, unshaven, in a wrinkled hoodie, no trace of his old swagger. Franklin cut the mower, pulse steady, as they stepped onto his driveway. "You ruined me," Damien spat, voice raw. His eyes were bloodshot, fists clenched but low. "My sponsors? You tipped them off, didn't you?" Franklin crossed his arms, silent. Sam stood behind Damien, her gaze fixed on the grass, lips trembling. "Answer me." Damien stepped closer, but Franklin didn't flinch. "You did this," Franklin said, voice even. "You took cash, dodged taxes, used people. I just made sure they noticed." Damien laughed, bitter. "You think you're clean? She came to me." He jabbed a thumb at Sam. "Said you were boring, checked out. I gave her what she wanted. This is on her." Sam's head snapped up, eyes wide. "Don't you dare." "Shut up." Damien turned on her, venom spilling. "You dragged me into your mess, and now I'm screwed. No place, no money. Because of you." Franklin watched, a cold clarity settling in. Damien wasn't just a hustler, he was a coward, turning on Sam the moment his cards ran out. Sam's face crumpled, tears streaking, but Franklin felt nothing for her, not anymore. "Get off my property," he said, stepping forward. "Both of you." Damien glared, chest heaving, then spat on the ground and stalked to the car. Sam lingered, mouth opening as if to speak, but Franklin raised a hand. "Don't." She nodded, a broken motion, and followed Damien. The car peeled away, taillights fading into dusk. Franklin restarted the mower drowning out the echo of their voices. Damien was finished, stripped of his shine, left to claw his way back. Sam was next, but that wasn't Franklin's fight anymore. Inside, he checked the notebook one last time, its pages a closed chapter. He locked it away. Eli's laughter drifting from upstairs. The storm had passed, and Franklin stood firm, ready for what came next. Franklin Brooks had dismantled Sam's world, not with anger but with truth, and now its ruins lay scattered across Austin's gossip circles. 2 months after the custody ruling, the life Sam had built, house, career, friendships, crumbled like dry sand. Franklin didn't watch her fall with glee. He didn't watch at all. His focus was Eli, their new rhythm, the quiet stability he'd fought for. But the echoes of Sam's collapse reached him anyway, a distant crash he couldn't fully ignore. The foreclosure notice came first. Franklin heard it from a neighbor, casual chatter over mailboxes, Sam's name on a public listing, their former home, now hers alone, slated for auction. She'd missed payments, the mortgage bleeding dry after her cash withdrawals to Damien. Franklin had protected his half of the equity during the divorce, Rose's accountant locking it tight. But Sam's share was hers to lose. He'd lost it. The house where Eli learned to ride a bike, where Franklin had grilled burgers on Sundays, was gone. A for sale sign stabbed the lawn, its red letters stark against the cedar siding. Her reputation followed. Austin's marketing scene was small, and word of the trial her affair, Damien's fraud, spread like oil. A client dropped her citing trust issues. A LinkedIn post from her agency announced her departure to pursue new opportunities. Corporate code for fired. Franklin saw it on a work break, scrolling absently. No one commented, no best wishes replies. Sam's network, once loud with praise, went silent. Her friends vanished next, the soccer moms, the yoga clique. They'd sided with her at first, whispering about Franklin's control during the divorce. But the courtroom evidence, texts, hotel receipts, Damien's leeching, changed the narrative. A group chat screenshot leaked by a bitter ex-ally showed Sam begging for lunch invites, met with excuses, busy this week, kids are sick. Franklin didn't see the text himself, but Eli's friend's mom mentioned it at pickup. Pity. She's got no one now, she said. Franklin nodded, said nothing. Pity wasn't his to give. Sam's world shrank to a one-bedroom apartment off Runberg Lane, a far cry from their suburban cul-de-sac. Franklin knew because court-ordered visitation reports listed her address, her monitored hours with Eli tracked like parole. She'd see him. Saturdays, 2 hours, at a community center with a social worker watching. Eli came home quiet after the first visit, clutching a new toy rocket she'd bought. Mom cried, he said, voice small. Franklin hugged him, changed the subject to Mars rovers. He didn't ask why. The call came on a Thursday night, late, as Franklin folded Eli's laundry. His phone buzzed, Sam's name flashing away. A jolt after months of silence outside court papers. He stared, thumb hovering, then answered, voice flat. What is it? Franklin. Her voice cracked, raw with tears. I'm sorry, I messed up, everything. I didn't mean for it to go this far. He stood in Eli's room, a half-folded t-shirt in his hand, the rocket toy on the dresser. The words he'd once wanted, her regret, her pain, landed like ash, cold and useless. Okay, he said. She sobbed, words tumbling. I lost the house, my job, everyone. Damien. He's gone, blamed me, said I ruined him. I didn't know what he was, not really. I thought he cared. Franklin's jaw tightened. Damien's fall, IRS audit, eviction, social exile was his doing, but he hadn't told her. Didn't need to. She'd seen the wreckage, same as he had. You chose him, he said, not cruel, just fact. Over Eli, over us. I know. Her voice broke again, a hiccuping gasp. I'm trying to fix it. I want to see Eli more. Be better, can't you? Can't you help me? Just a little? He set the t-shirt down, his eyes on Eli's rocket. Help her. How? Forgive her? Soften the court's rules? Every fiber screamed no. She'd laughed with Damien in their home, ignored Eli's games, lied to Franklin's face. The notebook, locked away, held those truths, and no tears could erase them. You made your choices, he said, voice low, final. Eli's safe now. That's what matters. Franklin, please? I've got nothing else for you. He hung up, the silence louder than her sobs. His hand shook, but he didn't call back, didn't waver. Sam wasn't his to save. She never had been. He finished folding the laundry, each crease precise, like the bridges he designed. Eli slept down the hall, safe, dreaming of stars. Franklin checked the locks, turned off the lights, and sat in the dark, her voice a fading echo. The life they'd had was gone, burned to nothing by her hands. He felt no guilt, no regret, just the weight of moving forward, step by steady step. Outside, Austin's skyline glittered, distant and cold. Sam was out there, alone, her world in ashes. Franklin closed his eyes, Eli's rocket a faint silhouette. Tomorrow, he'd make pancakes, drive Eli to school, keep their world whole. That was enough. Franklin Brooks stood on the porch of their new house, a modest one-story in Round Rock, watching Eli chase a scruffy mutt across the yard. The dog, Toby, a rescue with one floppy ear and a boundless gallop, yipped as Eli tossed a tennis ball, their laughter cutting through the late April dusk. 6 months after the courtroom battles, the foreclosure, and Sam's tearful call, this moment, Eli's grin, the grass underfoot, felt like a foundation finally settling. The move had been deliberate. Their old house, stained by Sam's betrayal and sold at auction, held too many ghosts. Franklin found this place online, 3 bedrooms, a big backyard close to Eli's school. No memories of Damien's footsteps or Sam's lies. They'd packed boxes in February, Eli clutching his Mars rover toy, asking if Toby could come too. Franklin had laughed, said yes, and they'd driven to the shelter that weekend. Toby, a terrier mix with eyes like Eli's, bright, trusting, picked them as much as they picked him. Now spring bloomed around them. The house smelled of fresh paint and Eli's science kits, its walls bare but for a few photos. Eli at the science fair, volcano erupting green. Franklin and Eli fishing at Brushy Creek, grins wide. No trace of Sam, not in frames or conversation. Her monitored visits continued, 1 hour a week, but Eli rarely spoke of them. Last month he'd come home with a sketch pad she'd bought, unopened. Franklin didn't push. Eli would process in his time, his way. School was Eli's triumph. Franklin had worried the divorce, the move, would dim his spark, but Eli bloomed. His teacher, Miss Carter, no relation to Damien, sent emails praising his math scores, his group project on black holes. At the spring showcase, Eli presented a model rocket explaining thrust to a crowd of parents. Franklin clapped loudest, chest tight with pride. Afterward, Eli hugged him, whispering, "Thanks for helping, Dad." Franklin held him longer than needed, Toby barking at their feet. Inside, the kitchen table held Eli's latest art, a crayon drawing labeled "Just Us." 2 stick figures, Franklin tall, Eli small, stood under a yellow sun, Toby at their side. No third figure, no shadow of Sam. Franklin taped it to the fridge, its colors brighter than the courtroom's gray. Eli hadn't asked about her in weeks, his questions fading like old paint. Franklin answered when he did, simple truths. "Mom's figuring things out. We're okay here." Eli nodded, moved on, his world anchored by routine, pancakes, homework, Toby's walks. Franklin rebuilt too. Work steadied him, bridge designs, clean lines, problems he could solve. His firm offered a promotion, more travel, but he declined. Eli needed him home, not on planes. Instead, he coached Eli's soccer team, yelling drills in the evening sun, Toby chasing stray balls. Colleagues stopped asking about the divorce. Friends invited them for barbecues, no pity in their eyes. The ache of Sam's betrayal lingered, but it was duller now, a bruise fading under new skin. That evening, as Eli and Toby tumbled inside, Franklin grilled burgers, the sizzle mixing with Eli's chatter about a new space game. "Dad, can we get a telescope? I want to see Jupiter." Eli's eyes, dark like Franklin's, gleamed. "Deal," Franklin said, flipping a patty. "But you're cleaning Toby's muddy paws first." Eli groaned, then laughed, grabbing a towel. Toby wagged, oblivious, and Franklin felt the house breathe alive, theirs. Dinner was loud, messy. Ketchup on Eli's chin. Afterward, they sprawled on the couch, Toby snoring between them, watching a documentary about Mars. Eli fell asleep mid-sentence, head on Franklin's shoulder. Franklin carried him to bed, tucking the rocket toy beside him, and paused at the door. This was enough, more than enough. Later, Franklin stepped outside, the Texas sunset painting the sky in pinks and golds. He sat on the porch steps, Toby at his side, the air warm with cedar and promise. His mind drifted, not to Sam, not to Damien, pinching, but to lessons learned. The notebook, locked in a storage box now, was a relic, its pages closed. The storm had raged. Sam's lies, Damien's schemes, the courtroom's cold justice. But they'd survived. Eli's laughter, Toby's bark, the house's hum. They were proof, no regrets, only clarity. Trust could break, but love, the real kind, held fast. Franklin scratched Toby's ears, watching the horizon glow. The past was ash, but the future was theirs. He thought of Eli's drawing, Just Us, and felt the truth settle deep. They'd rebuilt, stronger, not because of what they'd lost, but because of what they'd kept. "We survived the storm," he said softly, to Toby, to himself. "Now it's time to thrive."